Doctor Who Doctor by Doctor. Third Doctor Era Overview plus Top 10 Stories. The era of the Third Doctor, as played by Jon Pertwee, ran from 1970 to 1974 and consisted of 5 seasons, seasons 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. The Third Doctor was a flamboyant adventurer and man of action with a taste for the good life as well as an insatiable curiosity and unimpeachable moral fibre. At the close of the Second Doctor's era, the Doctor had been captured by his own people, the Time Lords, and not only forced to regenerate but exiled to Earth in the 20th century with his TARDIS inoperable. The Doctor quickly teams up with UNIT, the United Nations Intelligence Task Force, which is headed by his old friend Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart, played by the inestimable Nicholas Courtney, which provides him with a home and laboratory in which to try to repair his TARDIS while he serves as their scientific advisor as they attempt to protect the Earth from various homegrown and intergalactic threats. To help him, the Doctor is provided with an assistant, initially in the form of Liz Shaw, played by Caroline John, who is a scientist herself who arguably finds herself redundant next to the Doctor's alien genius, and then the decidedly unscientific Jo Grant, played by Katie Manning, a young UNIT agent fobbed off onto the Doctor by the Brigadier after she pulls familial strings in high places in order to get into the organization in the first place. Finally, after his exile to Earth is rescinded, though he more or less continues a part-time association with UNIT, the Doctor gains a slightly more traditional companion in the form of journalist Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen. Other regular characters in the era are UNIT personnel Sergeant Benton, played by John Levine, and Captain Mike Yates, played by Richard Franklin. The era was produced almost entirely by Barry Letts, with the exception of the very first story Spearhead from Space, which was produced by Derek Sherwin, with all 5 seasons script edited by Terrance Dicks. The era introduced an astonishing array of crucial mythology into Doctor Who, including the Autons, the Silurians, Omega, the Sontarans and even the name of the Doctor's home planet, Gallifrey. Of course, no overview of the Third Doctor's era would be complete without mentioning arguably the biggest contribution it made to the programme's mythology, that being the original incarnation of the Master, an evil Time Lord and the Doctor's nemesis, as played by Roger Delgado. The Master is a perennial thorn in the side of both the Doctor and UNIT, and never more so than in Season 8, in which Delgado was actually a full-time series regular. The era proved an enormous success for Doctor Who, revitalizing the programme's popularity after waning interest and poor ratings toward the end of the Troughton era, and remains an iconic fan favorite to this day. Top 10 Stories. 10. Frontier in Space. Doctor Who does Star Wars 4 years early when the Doctor and Jo become caught up in a bid to provoke 2 massive empires, one of which is human, into war in this typically clever story from Malcolm Hulke that has some lovely world building. 9. The Time Warrior. Robert Holmes began to define himself as the definitive Doctor Who writer during the Pertwee era, and The Time Warrior is one of his many successes, a witty historical romp that introduced both Sarah and the Sontarans and just throws in the name Gallifrey as an aside in a typically blasé piece of Holmes's casual brilliance. 8. Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Yes, the special effects are largely shit. Yes, you're very witty for pointing it out. Now we can get over it and get on with enjoying the rest of the story. Because Invasion of the Dinosaurs is actually a pretty cracking tale of human conspiracy that and a plot that even involves a high-ranked and regular member of the UNIT family. Dinosaurs is a great ride. 7. The Silurians. From the unimpeachable Season 7, perhaps the grittiest Doctor Who season ever made, the Silurians sees the Doctor try to negotiate peace between mankind and a race of intelligent reptiles that evolved on Earth before we didn't have just been woken up from an extended millennia nap in a very cranky mood. Things do not go well. 6. Carnival of Monsters. The Doctor and Jo become unwilling inhabitants of a galactic peep show in this wildly imaginative and utterly bonkers tongue-in-cheek romp from who else but Robert Holmes. The Pertwee era wasn't really known for comic stories, and this is one of the rare few and absolutely brilliant to boot. 5. The Ambassadors of Death. Another humdinger of a story from Season 7. Ambassadors sees unit discover a mad general trying to foment war between humanity and an alien race he has an obsessive and irrational grudge against in this excellent and complex sci-fi thriller with some excellent action scenes. 4. Day of the Daleks. The best Dalek story of the 70s, and one of the most underrated in the series canon, Day of the Daleks uses a Terminator-esque time travel plot a decade before the Terminator and contains some excellent scenes, performances and dialogue. 3. Inferno. Doctor Who doesn't get more intense than Inferno, where a drilling project goes tits up and shatters the entire planet. The good news? That only happens in a fascistic parallel universe where the Doctor gets trapped. The bad news? The same project is underway in our universe and just a few hours away from unleashing the same Armageddon. Chilling stuff. 2. The Three Doctors. The first and still the best anniversary and multi-doctor story, The Three Doctors is nostalgic, mythology-defining and above all enormous fun, with good old Patrick Troughton stealing the show and most of the laughs as he winds up the villain and Jon Pertwee in equal measure. An absolutely delightful scream from start to finish. 1. Spearhead from Space. The story that launched the era and looks as cool, stylish and slick as all hell while doing so. Spearhead from Space introduces the Autons as well as the Third Doctor, Liza and the whole working for unit shtick, and does so with typical Robert Holmes effortless ease. Simply brilliant. The era of the Third Doctor is a difficult one for me to rate. Many fans regard it as one of the best, if not the best, of all time. Yet while I love large chunks of it, as well as the Third Doctor himself and the likes of the Brigadier, there are aspects of the era I have trouble warming to. The Barry Letts production style, with all the CSSO and often unlistenable music, has dated badly, more so than most of the 1960s shows in my opinion, and the dumbing down of the series to a more comic book style for the rest of the era following the very adult Season 7 is also more than a little bit disappointing. The Master is overused, especially in Season 8, and there is a formula quality to much of the era that occasionally dangerously borders on samey. At the same time, like I said, it's difficult to be too harsh on the era as it contains much to enjoy and love and had a massively defining impact on the future of the program. While it is never going to be one of my absolute favorite eras, I can find little justification to give the Jon Pertwee era a rating of anything less than a B+.